India's Voice to the World. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to depart for Laos to attend ASEAN India Summit and East Asia Summit. Hurricane Milton makes landfall in Florida as Category 3 storm. US President warns it could be one of the worst storms in 100 years in Florida. US President Joe Biden holds direct and productive call with Netanyahu. Israel says strikes on Iran will be lethal, precise and surprising. India's iconic industrialist, philanthropist, Tata Sons Chairman Emeritus Ratan Tata passes away at 86. President, Vice President, PM Modi lead nation in paying tribute to the legend. India beats Bangladesh by 86 runs, takes 2-0 lead in series. Women's team beat Sri Lanka by 82 runs in T20 World Cup. And on to the details now. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting Vientiane on 10th and 11th October to take part in the 21st ASEAN India Summit and 19th East Asia Summit. He will also be holding bilateral meetings with the world leaders. DD India's Meghna Dev reports for more.
At the invitation of Prime Minister Sonexay Sifandon, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Vientiane on 10th and 11th of October. During his visit, Prime Minister will attend the 21st ASEAN India Summit and the 19th East Asia Summit being hosted by Lao PDR as the current chair of ASEAN.
The significance of this particular summit will be that it is the 10th anniversary of Prime Minister's Act East policy. Prime Minister will, along with other heads of state and government of ASEAN countries, review the progress in the relations between India and ASEAN over this time, and they will chart the future direction of our relationship.
India is marking a decade of the Act East policy this year. The ASEAN India Summit will review progress achieved from the previous summit in Jakarta in sectors of connectivity, digital infrastructure and the 12-point proposal Prime Minister Modi laid out for strengthening ASEAN-India cooperation.
After forming his government for a consecutive third term, Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently visited Singapore and Brunei Darussalam. Not only this, the President of India visited Timor-Leste, Fiji and New Zealand. This shows how much significance India attaches to the ASEAN region, to its Act East policy and to the wider Indo-Pacific. We are also talking about the trade relationship that ASEAN has with India. And we see the data for 22 and 23, we see a bilateral trade standing at $131 billion US.
Prime Minister will also participate in the 19th East Asia Summit. Last year, Prime Minister Modi called for a cooperative approach to address global challenges like terrorism, climate change and the resilient supply chains.
This mechanism has been in existence since 2005, and it is to build strategic trust in the region, promote peace and stability and prosperity for the region. In the East Asia Summit, the Prime Minister announced the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative in the 14th EAS Summit in 2019, and since then we have built convergences with the ASEAN's own outlook for the Indo-Pacific, and we work closely with ASEAN countries on this.
Prime Minister Modi will also hold bilateral meetings with world leaders on the margins of the summit. While the summit will discuss several subjects across diverse areas, the shared cultural heritage will also be at the forefront of the visit. Meghna Dev's report, DD.
Lao ASEAN, a unique edition of Perfume by an Indian-origin entrepreneur, Sothavi Chaudhary, is being given to delegates and VVIPs at the ASEAN Summit. Chaudhary has developed this perfume under the motto Product of Lao and Gift of ASEAN. He will also be gifting it to PM Modi during his visit to Laos. Indian-origin entrepreneur Chaudhary established a first-of-its-kind perfume factory in Laos in 2014 and is currently exporting its fragrances to the Gulf countries, China and Korea. Chaudhary says that the upcoming visit of Prime Minister is a proud moment for him and the diaspora is eagerly waiting for his arrival.
The Indian community in Vientiane is excited to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Lao PDR, and we are joined in by first-generation entrepreneur Mr. Chaudhary, who is the owner of a perfume brand in Vientiane in Lao PDR, and he will be presenting a very significant perfume to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What do you have to say? What is special about this? Where's the idea come from?
This is a Lao Asian perfume. We make it from the product of Lao, gift from ASEAN. And this is the chair of 2024 in the Laos, chair of in the ASEAN. And not very easy to make this perfume because not only Laos, because if the other Asian 10 country also, I keep it always in my brain. That also one kind of challenging for me. But finally I make it. This is the Lao Asian perfume.
Has there been any Indian influences in the fragrances that you create?
Yes, yes, of course, some Indian influences is here. From some is coming from Manipur, Nagaland. Some oil I put it here also. And yes, this is last time 2006, 2007. I go with the Deputy Prime Minister and other minister together in Dubai. Then when we go to Dubai, we visited so many perfume shop. Then that time is our Prime Minister said, Deputy Prime Minister, why not making the made in Laos perfume? Then I have promised to him. I promised to okay, one day I will make the made in Laos perfume.
You're also known to create a perfume from the traditional, or we can say a special Lao flower. What is that?
Yes, special Lao flower is the Dok Champa. Dok Champa is the national flower in the Laos. When they have the Basi ceremony, welcoming, or you have to go they have the festival, the water festival. That time is that flower is coming. This is the national flower.
What is the excitement to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi here in Vientiane?
Yeah, of course, I'm very exciting to meet him because all our community also waiting for meet him. This is the leader who is the ASEAN leader in the all over world leader in the Narendra Modi ji. Of course, we are very much exciting. Especially for myself, I'm very exciting to meet him.
Here we see that the excitement is there in the diaspora, and not only that, the entrepreneurs, Indian origin entrepreneurs, are growing significantly in Laos. What we also definitely see is that in a small community, the small Indian community that resides in Lao PDR has got a very significant contribution to contribute to the country of Lao PDR. With camera person Mohit Joshi, this is Meghna Dev, 40D India from Vientiane.
Well, Hurricane Milton has made landfall near Siesta Key, Florida as a dangerous Category 3 storm. It is the 5th hurricane to make landfall in the U.S. this year. Milton made landfall in Florida just weeks after Hurricane Helene made landfall in Florida as a Category 4 storm in a state already battered by Helene 2 weeks ago. As many as 2 million people have been ordered to evacuate and millions more live in the projected path of the storm. According to the National Weather Service, Milton is bringing an axis of extreme rainfall to the Tampa Bay area, increasing the risk of deadly flash flooding. The storm could become one of the most destructive on record for Florida's Gulf Coast. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis delivered an evening press briefing warning residents to shelter in place now that Milton has arrived on the state's coastline. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden urged the Floridians to take shelter and prepare for Hurricane Milton's destructive impact, emphasizing the need for immediate safety measures for those unable to evacuate. Biden condemned the irresponsible and relentless spread of disinformation about Hurricane Milton, calling it an un-American to undermine federal and rescue team efforts.
Former President Trump has led this onslaught of lies. Assertions have been made that property is being confiscated. It's simply not true. They're saying people impacted by these storms will receive $750 in cash and no more. That is simply not true either. They're saying the money needed for these crises are being diverted to migrants. What the heck are they talking about? Stop it. It's outrageous. It's just not true.
Well, United States President Joe Biden has reaffirmed his ironclad support for Israel during a phone call with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The call between the two leaders on Wednesday lasted 30 minutes and was their first publicly announced conversation since August amid an escalation of violence in Gaza and Lebanon. Vice President Kamala Harris also joined the call. White House spokeswoman Karine Jean-Pierre earlier had described the talks as direct and productive. Talks also included discussions on a potential attack on Iran. Well, the U.S. is working to get Americans out of Lebanon ahead of a potential Israeli attack. White House press spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre said the U.S. Embassy in Beirut remains open and the U.S. will continue to make airplanes available as long as the Beirut airport remains open.
As long as the Beirut airport remains open, we will continue to make more airplane seats available daily. To date, the number of seats available continues to exceed demand. The U.S. Embassy in Beirut remains open and can help Americans who need emergency passports or other documentation. We urge Americans to take advantage of these options. Ultimately, a diplomatic resolution is the only way to achieve lasting stability and security across the Israel-Lebanon border.
Meanwhile, Israel's defense minister warned on Wednesday that his country's retaliation for a recent Iranian missile attack will be lethal and surprising. Iran fired dozens of missiles at Israel on October 1st in an escalation of the conflict between the two countries.
Now you have seen the attacks that the Iranians attacked us a short while ago. These attacks were aggressive, but they failed because they weren't accurate attacks. Just as we have been doing until now in the war on all of the fronts, whoever attacks us will be hurt and will pay a price. Our attack will be deadly, precise, and above all, surprising. They will not understand what happened and how it happened. They will see the results.
And the 15-member United Nations Security Council met over the humanitarian crisis a year after a deadly attack by Palestinian terrorist Hamas on southern Israel that sparked the conflict in Gaza. Referring to reports of squalid conditions in South and Central Gaza, U.S. Ambassador to the UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield said Israel needs to urgently address catastrophic conditions among Palestinian civilians in the besieged Gaza Strip. She also addressed a recent Israeli order for civilians in Gaza's north to evacuate again, saying they must be able to return to communities to rebuild.
Conditions are catastrophic and will further deteriorate if additional steps are not taken. Indeed, all parties must meet their responsibilities under Resolution 2720. The flow of humanitarian aid through multiple border crossings to Palestinian civilians is desperately needed and must be allowed.
Well, the UN has long complained of obstacles to getting aid into Gaza and distributing it during the conflict. The head of the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency, UNRWA, Philip Lazzarini, told the Security Council that Gazans are teetering on the edge of a man-made famine.
The latest development in the north are especially alarming. Hundreds of thousands of people are again being pushed to move to the south when living conditions are intolerable. And yet, again, Gazans are teetering on the edge of a man-made famine.
Well, Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon defended his country's record, saying Israel imposes no restrictions on humanitarian aid, and he accused Hamas of diverting aid from those in Gaza who need it.
Israel imposes no restrictions on humanitarian aid. In fact, 82% of all requests for humanitarian coordination have been approved and implemented. We have a vision for Gaza without Hamas. Aid would finally reach those who truly need it. Hamas has exploited the suffering of its people, using the misery in Gaza as a propaganda tool where they line their pockets and boost their arsenals. Our vision of Gaza is not an impossible dream. It is within reach. But it cannot happen while Hamas remains in control, diverting aid, exploiting resources, and worsening the suffering of their own people.
Well, France and the United States proposed last month a 21-day ceasefire. But those talks quickly appeared to stall as Israel heavily bombed Beirut's southern suburbs, killing longtime Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. A UN peacekeeping mission is mandated by Security Council Resolution 1701. It was adopted in 2006 to help the Lebanese army keep its southern border area with Israel free of weapons or armed personnel other than those of the Lebanese state. That has sparked friction with Iran-backed Hezbollah, which effectively controls southern Lebanon. All parties are banned from crossing the Blue Line, a UN-mapped line separating Lebanon from Israel and the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. At UN headquarters on Wednesday, Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, said if Hezbollah wants this situation to de-escalate, they must immediately stop shelling.
If Hezbollah wants the situation to de-escalate, it's very simple. They have to do two things. First, they must immediately stop shelling our civilian communities. Second, Hezbollah must withdraw to the north of the Litani River in accordance with UN Resolution 1701, was adopted here in the Security Council in 2006. Until that happens, Israel will continue our operations to degrade Hezbollah's terror network. We found a lot of weapons in the bunkers next to our border, and we will do whatever it takes to secure our people and enable the 70,000 displaced Israelis to return home safely.
While UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Giannin Hennes-Perastet, said a US and French-led call for a 21-day truce between Israel and Hezbollah is still on the table.
The joint call for a 21-day ceasefire as launched by the US or led by the US and France, I think is still on the table and very relevant. So we should not dismiss it. I don't think that new initiatives will add to it. I mean, the many appeals and calls for ceasefire are crystal clear. We need a window for diplomatic efforts to succeed.
Well, an Air Force A-400 aircraft arrived in Madrid on Wednesday from Lebanon with 68 evacuees from Lebanon, mostly Spanish citizens and their Lebanese relatives. Spain's Foreign Affairs Minister, José Manuel Alvarez, said in total 348 people have been evacuated by Spanish authorities from Lebanon in 3 military aircrafts. An escalation in the conflict between Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah over the past 2 weeks has fueled fears of a wider regional conflict. And as countdown of presidential polls in the USA has started, Republicans and Democrats are all out and open to denounce the other. On Wednesday, there was a huge spar between U.S. President Joe Biden and the former U.S. President Donald Trump. The Republican candidate Donald Trump was holding a rally in Pennsylvania on Wednesday. While addressing the rally, he claimed himself as savior of democracy in America.
Today, Tampa and Tim said they want to abolish the Electoral College, taking away all electoral power basically from the voters of places like Pennsylvania. Tim and Comrade Kamala are really a true threat. They are a true threat to democracy. I'm not a threat to democracy. I'm the one that's going to save democracy. I'm the one that's going to save it.
Well, the former U.S. president also accused Kamala Harris for not handling the rescue operation after different hurricanes that affected many parts of the USA.
You know what's more important about her? I don't like her. You know what's more important about her? She's just led the worst rescue operation in history in North Carolina. The worst. And we have another big one coming in, but the worst, the one in North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Virginia, pieces of Florida got hit. I mean, it's incredible. The worst ever, they say. They had no money. You know where they gave the money? To illegal immigrants coming in, many of whom are killers, many of whom are drug dealers, many of whom are gang members, and many of whom came out of prisons from all over the world.
Well, strong rebuttal came from U.S. President Joe Biden. He made a special statement on how his government was running the rescue operations. He accused Trump of spreading lies.
President Trump has led this onslaught of lies. Assertions have been made that property is being confiscated. It's simply not true. They're saying people impacted by these storms will receive $750 in cash and no more. That is simply not true either. They're saying the money needed for these crises are being diverted to migrants. What the heck are they talking about? Stop it. It's outrageous. It's just not true.
Well, the Democratic candidate Kamala Harris got a shot in arms on Wednesday as Oscar-winning actor Julia Roberts came to state to campaign for Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris in her home state of Georgia. Georgia is one of 7 states likely to determine the contest between Harris and her Republican opponent, Donald Trump.
I believe in Georgia. I wouldn't have come home if I didn't believe that we can accomplish really beautiful goals that will extend beyond our state's borders.
And still to come at this edition of DD India Live. The Second Army Commanders Conference for the year 2024 to be held in a hybrid mode. Army commanders to review overall security situation. World Mental Health Day observed today to encourage global mental health education, awareness and advocacy against social stigma. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lapakshi Khurana, and moving on, the chairman emeritus of Tata Sons and recipient of India's second highest civilian honor, Padma Vibhushan Ratan Tata, passes away at a Mumbai hospital late on Wednesday. Tata was admitted in a hospital on Monday and was undergoing routine medical investigations due to his age and related medical conditions. Tata was born in a traditional Parsi family in 1937. He studied architecture and structural engineering at Cornell University in the US. In 1962, he joined Tata Industries, the promoter company of the group, as an assistant and spent 6 months training at a company plant in Jamshedpur. From there, he went on to work at the Tata Iron and Steel Company, now known as Tata Steel, Tata Consultancy Services and National Radio and Electronics, also known as NELCO. In 1991, J.R.D. Tata, who had led the group for over half a century, appointed Ratan Tata as his successor. In 2008, the Indian government awarded him the Padma Vibhushan, the country's second highest civilian honor. The business tycoon also had a lighter side to him. His love for fast cars and planes was well known. The Tata Group website describes these as some of his enduring passions. He was also a dog lover and fondly remembered the many pets who gave him company over the decades. And President of India, Draupadi Murmu, condoled with the demise of business icon Ratan Tata. In a post on X, he wrote, and I quote, "In the sad demise of Sri Ratan Tata, India's lost an icon who blended corporate growth with nation building and excellence with ethics. A recipient of Padma Vibhushan and Padma Bhushan, he took forward the great Tata legacy and gave it a more impressive global presence. He inspired seasoned professionals and young students alike. His contribution to philanthropy and charity is invaluable. I convey my condolences to his family, the entire team of the Tata Group and his admirers across the globe." Unquote. Also, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar condoled the demise of Ratan Tata. He wrote on X, and I quote, "Deeply pained by the passing away of Sri Ratan Tata Ji, a towering figure of Indian industry, whose contributions towards building a self-reliant Bharat will forever be an inspiration to entrepreneurs in India and beyond. A man of deep commitment and compassion, his philanthropic contributions and the humility he embodied aptly reflect the ethos he embraced. As the legend of Indian industry leaves behind a lasting legacy, Bharat would miss him very dearly. I extend my heartfelt condolences to his family, friends, admirers, and to the entire Tata group in this hour of grief. Om Shanti, unquote. And in a series of posts on X, Prime Minister Narendra Modi called Ratan Tata a visionary business leader, a compassionate soul and an extraordinary human being, unquote. He hailed Ratan Tata's most unique aspect of his passion towards dreaming big and giving back. Recalling his interactions with Tata, Prime Minister Modi also said, and I quote, "I would meet him frequently in Gujarat when I was the CM. We would exchange views on diverse issues. I found his perspectives very enriching. These interactions continued when I came to Delhi. Extremely pained by his passing away. My thoughts are with his family, friends and admirers in this sad hour. Om Shanti," unquote. And in his departure statement, Prime Minister Modi said this year marks a decade of India's Act East policy. To review progress in comprehensive strategic partnership, the East Asia Summit will provide an opportunity to deliberate on the challenges to peace, stability and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. India shares close cultural and civilizational ties with the region, including with Lao PDR. Looking forward to engaging with the Lao PDR leadership to further strengthen our bilateral ties, confident that this visit will further deepen India's engagement with ASEAN countries. And the Second Army Commanders Conference for the year 2024 will be organized in a hybrid mode, with the first phase planned on 10th to 11th October 2024 in a forward location at Gangtok. In the second phase, the senior hierarchy of Indian Army will congregate at Delhi on 28th to 29th October 2024. Today, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will deliver a keynote address to the senior leadership at Gangtok and will be briefed on the emerging security challenges and the response of the Army in the security domain. The conference will serve as a forum for senior commanders to review current operational preparedness, deliberate on critical strategies and outline future directives. The gathering reinforces Army's enduring resolve to stay prepared, adapt swiftly and defend with precision to ensure the Indian Army remains progressive, forward-looking, adaptive and future-ready. Well, October 10th is observed as World Mental Health Day to encourage global mental health education, awareness and advocacy against social stigma. The theme this year is "It's time to prioritize mental health in the workplace." Emotional and mental well-being is more than just a personal matter. It impacts individuals, families and communities. Despite increased awareness, many still shy away from seeking help due to fear of judgment or stigma. And on to some sports news now. India's men's cricket team beat Bangladesh by 86 runs to take an unassailable 2-0 lead in the series on Wednesday. This is India's biggest ever win over Bangladesh in terms of runs. They surpassed their previous best, a 50-run victory that came in North-South in 2024 T20 World Cup. Batting first, India scored 221 for 9 in 20 overs. A sensational 108-run partnership of 48 balls between Nitish Reddy and Rinku Singh was the highlight of India's innings. The side lost 3 wickets in the power play. And moving on, India registered the biggest ever margin of victory in Women's T20 World Cup history, beating Sri Lanka by 82 runs in their third game of the 2024 edition. The win also helps them go above Pakistan and New Zealand in Group A, as well as cross New Zealand's net run rate. Batting first, India put up a daunting score of 172 thanks to half-centuries by star batters Harmanpreet Kaur and Smriti Mandhana. With the ball, India got off to an electric start, leaving Sri Lanka at 6-3 and ultimately bowling them out for 90. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Well, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.